Hello, my name is Heather O'Connor. I'm the Pastoral Deputy Head at William Perkins School, and this webinar is about how to revise. It's based on a workshop that I deliver to our Year 11 students in the autumn term of Year 11, just at the point when they're starting to get quite worried about revision and whether they're ever going to be able to climb the huge mountain that they feel is ahead of them. So the purpose of my webinar is really to help you as parents identify what perhaps some of the common barriers are to good revision and to give you some handy tips about how to help your child be a better reviser. And if you are interested in this whole area of working smart, retrieval methods and how the brain retains information, then please do see our other webinar on our website called Working Smart. So when I meet with our Year 11 students, I start by really empathising with them about how difficult and miserable revision actually is. And perhaps you as a parent remember the struggles that you yourself went through when you were trying to revise. It does feel quite demoralising for our young people, and the cognitive load that revision puts on them on top of doing coursework, attending school, is extremely demanding. And the reason why we do our workshop at this time in Year 11 is because quite often they're feeling really low about revision. And I share with them this slide called the revision curve. And we have a bit of a laugh together because they're often at some point on the left-hand side of this curve. Maybe they're still in the shock and denial phase. Suddenly, it's all beginning to sink in. There is a huge amount of content in modern GCSEs, just such a lot of stuff to memorise. And students quite often minimise what they have to do, or they're in denial. You perhaps as the parent are trying to say to them, "You don't think you should be starting your revision?" And you're getting the hand. "No, I know what I'm doing, go away." It's because they really aren't wanting to engage with that difficult and unpleasant thinking. Your child might also be in the anger blame others game at the moment. They could be getting angry with you. "You don't understand. You're always putting pressure on me. Stop asking me to revise. I don't suppose you have any clue what I'm going through." Quite often, they will blame their school or teachers. "The geography teacher's just ridiculous. They keep giving us more and more information and sheets and resources. I can't possibly be expected to do this." And then we see that begin to change and transform into blaming themselves. "I'm hopeless. I'm useless. I just can't do it. Everyone else is fine, but there's no way I will be able to revise." And that's often when the real stress and worry start to really sink in. And there can be some really unpleasant pinch points in Year 11, quite often around December time, just before mock exams, when they might really be very emotional about their exams and feeling quite despondent and hopeless, and they might be completely avoiding any talk about it or just going up to their bedroom and slamming the door. I think it's worth remembering as a parent that all teenagers to some extent go through these feelings. You will know your child best. And I would say, remember that if they've gone into the low point, there is only one way, and that is to come up and out the other side. So we hope that after going through all the miserable phase, suddenly they start to accept that the exam's around the corner. They're going to let go of the anger and the blaming and "you don't know what I'm going through" kind of conversation, the avoidance strategies. And that's often when they start to maybe seek help and advice. "I don't know how to memorise all these English lit quotes, Mum. Dad, can you just help me with this maths because I just don't get it?" Or maybe they'll go and actually ask the teachers at school for some help and advice too. Most schools have a learning support department. Ours is called Personalised Learning here at William Perkins, and that's available for any child who might need help with their revision. Then students start to hopefully experiment and maybe adapt. For many young people, they have never revised properly, ever. And suddenly they realise they've got to start doing something. It might have been able to wing it right the way through year 7, 8, 9 and 10. They know it's not going to cut it for the real thing. And that's hopefully when they start trying out some of the different methods that they're told by their teachers, and some of the methods that I'm going to go through with you in this webinar. Once they get started, there is a change in attitude, and hopefully a more positive feeling about it. I am doing it, I can do it, I've just got to get on with this. And there does come a point for many, many young people when they actually feel quite good and in control of their revision. And I've had many students say to me, I just want to get on with the exams now. I'm fed up of doing past papers. I'm fed up of prepping. Let's just get this over with. I'm ready for them. And that is what, of course, we as adults are all working towards. So the next part of my workshop is to talk to the youngsters about the things that get in the way of good revision. I get this sheet to fill in, and that will be attached to this webinar if you wanted to do this with your child. And they're asked to sort of categorise the things that they incline towards strongly or don't. And it's things like procrastinating, putting things off, or getting so bored that your attention drifts. Making beautiful notes but never actually memorising them. Or avoiding certain topics because they're really hard, really boring, and so on and so forth. There's two sides to this sheet. And you'll see that some of the things are red and some of them are green. So it's really helpful to ask your child whether they incline towards issues in the greens or in the reds. Because as you can see, green refers to poor systems of organisation, and red refers to very poor revision techniques. Now, your child might be one or the other, or they might be a bit of both. And I think it's worth remembering that actually organisation is crucial. The most effective organisers, the children that get the great exam results, are super efficient and super organised. If your child isn't like that, you're probably going to need to help them. And let's hope they're ready to receive it. Now, young people are often told about revision timetables from year 7 onwards, and they can do a huge yawn when it comes to a timetable. But they are crucial in helping a young person be a systematic and organised reviser. The big takeaway is that the timetable must include topics, not just a subject. The topic areas. Otherwise, certain topics are going to be missed out, and they're usually the difficult and boring ones. So what I would suggest that your young person does is to sit down and write a list of every topic in biology, every topic in chemistry, every topic in history, and so on. And then on a blank timetable, fill in the topic areas, just like the one on the screen you see in front of you. Most students, in my experience, prefer to do this on a piece of paper, but there are apps that will do it for you. You need to be realistic. As soon as the revision timetable is too optimistic and difficult to achieve, you might as well set a match to it and light it on fire. It will not be looked at or referred to again. Better to only have one revision session on there and then a bonus 2 revision sessions if you can, especially if your child is prone to getting quite demoralised and fed up. You want them to feel like everything's under control, everything is achievable. Know your child. Please don't require your child to do 5 hours of revision a day on a Sunday if you know realistically they're only going to manage an hour. It's much better to them feel some success and more likely to continue and work through it and even increase their revision times if it starts off well. You can see I've put the word chunking there. Most students can't revise for more than 40 minutes without really getting distracted, losing focus and bored. Again, it's up to the individual, but it's much better to do 3 short sessions than just be sat in your study or at your desk for hours on end. Once the timetable's done, stick it up somewhere visible And remember that you can do more on a Saturday and a Sunday and in a school holiday than you can on a weekday. But if you have a child whose brain doesn't work like this, maybe your child is neurodiverse, in which case the timetable will be hopeless. They will not be able to stick to it. It will completely stress them out, and it is actually counterproductive. What do you do then? Well, here's the answer. It sounds strange, but you need a blank revision timetable for a child like this. And instead of filling it in advance with all the wonderful topics you're going to do in a month's time, in 6 weeks' time, you leave it blank and you actually write in the topics that they have managed to revise on the day and date that they've done it. So once again, you make your to-do list. All the topic areas in English Lit, all the topic areas in geography, all the topic areas in physics. And that's their to-do list. And they try to work through that list as they can, writing on the topics into the blank revision timetable as they go for a sense of achievement. I am doing this. I can revise. Quite often, neurodiverse young people can actually hyper-focus for many hours at a time, but only when their brain is in flow. They unfortunately can't switch their brain on at 10 a.m. on a Saturday morning and start revising the heart and circulation system. But maybe at 8 o'clock at night, they can do 2 or 3 topics in a row in hyperfocus. So what we say to our youngsters who are neurodiverse, typically your ADHD or your autistic students, is to say, do you know what? When your brain is in flow, you seize the moment and just go for it and do as many revision topics as you can. And it might be that you have to wait another day or so before your brain is in that zone again, but it will come back. You will get into that zone and you will be able to do it. Again, for many ADHD students, just doing tiny bits, doing 10 minutes with a little timer is all they need to get a little dopamine hit to be able to crack on with some work. And of course, you cross off the topics as you do them on the to-do list to give yourself a sense of achievement and accomplishment. Now, let's hope you've been super systematic and organised. One thing that many students make the mistake of doing is trying to memorise their notes way too early. They then forget them, and then they think there's no point in memorising because they're just going to forget them and it's a waste of time. Much better to think about revision as a 2-stage process. Stage 1, reduce the content to useful, easy to memorise notes. And these can be in any kind of format, whatever your child likes to do. For example, one piece of A3 paper, a mind map on it. Maybe they like writing out bullet points. Maybe they want to go and get themselves an exercise book per subject and transfer the notes from their iPad or their textbooks or the revision guides onto the exercise book. Maybe they like revision cards or flashcards. Maybe they like making Quizlets, which are quizzes for each topic. It doesn't really matter. The important thing is that they are reducing the amount they have to memorize to the bare, briefest basics. And this can be done right the way through year 10, up until about March of year 11, or if you've got a child in the 6th form, right the way through year 12 as they do topics until March, February of year 13. You're aiming to have everything condensed and ready to go for stage 2. This is the active memorization of those notes. The worst technique that a child can use is just reading through their full file, full exercise book or full textbook. So that's why making notes is crucial. Let me show you an example. This is the A3 technique. In most GCSEs, there are 8 topics to cover. If your child can reduce each topic to one piece of A3, and they've only got to revise 8 sheets of paper. Mentally, that's so much more doable than a whole folder full of stuff. So again, we're trying to reduce. You can see here, Lenny, that's of Mice and Men, English literature. They need to know and be able to memorize facts about each of the characters and the themes. It can be done by a mind map or a spider diagram. Some students like writing out bullet point lists. Some students like to type their notes out. Small little flashcards are fantastic. And I mentioned Quizlet earlier, that's an online app, but a set of quiz questions on each topic is brilliant. I mean, even if it's 100 questions, that's a fantastic set of notes for active memorization later on. So, making the notes. There you go. They've got to be brief. We do have often students that just rewrite the whole of their textbook out. That's not good. The aim of this is to reduce the content that you've got to memorize. Stage 2, learning the notes. As I mentioned earlier on, the most popular method is reading stuff through, and it is the worst method for memorization. They need to get some little techniques under their belt that make it quick and easy to memorize facts and information. I go through 3 with my students in the workshop. The first technique is eyes shut writing. So I get them to read a section of notes. I give them something particularly boring from GCSE biology on enzymes. They have to try and condense them into note form first. We practice our note-taking skills. And then I give them about 2 minutes to just keep reading their notes through until they have to shut their eyes and try and write the notes out with their eyes shut, which causes quite a lot of hilarity because, of course, the handwriting is useless. But what I'm saying to them is you're forcing your brain not only to remember what you've written, but actually to picture it in your mind's eye. Once they've done their eyes shut writing, I then make them go and stand facing a wall. And they have to tell the wall all about enzymes. So this time they're verbalizing the information that they've read about on the notes. So they have to say it out loud. And I tell the students that this is the fastest and quickest way to memorize. Saying it is faster than writing it. Teach your Teddy all about of mice and men or moles calculations in chemistry. Talk to the wall, pace up and down your room, saying it over and over again out loud. It really, really works. And then finally, test yourself. This is where if you've made a set of quiz questions, absolute gold dust, you go through your quiz questions. But also you could arrange to call up one of your friends and say, can you test me please on the topic of rivers in geography, and then I'll test you. Or hopefully they might come to a family member, shove a load of notes in your hand and say, can you test me on this? That really works. To do numbers 1, 2 and 3 for a topic takes about probably 20 minutes, half an hour, but they will remember it. They will remember it with those techniques. So it's really important to get across to youngsters to use different methods of memorization. Number 1, it's slightly less boring. And number 2, by doing or computing, if you like, in your brain, the information in different ways, you will remember it much better. Here's some more. Reading through something just before you're going to sleep. You're not trying to remember it. You're just going to read it through. It's probably going to send you to sleep, hopefully, but that works very well indeed. Past papers. Past papers are fantastic. And if you've got a disorganized child, I would recommend that you go and print off every past paper you can get for each subject, go on the exam board website, arrange them nicely in different folders, and use it as an active memorization technique. So you say to your child, you know what, I've done so much today revising heart and circulation for biology. Here's all your biology past papers. Why don't you see if you could answer every heart and circulation question in all of them? Brilliant. And use the mark scheme. So get online, Find the mark scheme for that paper. How did you get on? Oh, okay, brilliant. Oh, what else do they say you should have included? Oh, of course. Really, really good. And once you actually get to about perhaps April before your exams, you could do whole papers and mark them together to see what you would get. Very good for students that need a bit of motivation, because you can say, what did you get? 50%. Oh, come on, let's do another paper, see if you can edge it up to 58%. The more past papers your child is able to do, the more confident they will be in that exam, and the easier they will find the paper. It is obvious, but you might have to do the printing out yourself. You might have to organise your child in this way. Post-it notes around the house, brilliant. If you don't mind looking at chemistry formulae next to your kettle, on the mirror in the bathroom, it is brilliant. Magic whiteboards are like plastic white pieces of paper that stick to the wall with static electricity, and you can write on them with a board marker. Buy them at all good online websites, shopping websites. If your child is really struggling with a topic, they absolutely hate forces and motion in physics, get them to draw it all out on a magic whiteboard. They're about A3 size. Stick it on the bedroom wall and look at it for the next 6 months. They will remember it. I once had a student who told me that she learned all of her RS quotations by writing them in waterproof eyeliner on the inside of her shower screen. And every time she had a shower, she just looked at the quotations. She said it was brilliant. I had them up there for 6 months, but when I was in the exam, I just closed my eyes and I could see the quote was in the corner. Brilliant. Do that on mirrors, in bedrooms, post-it notes of Shakespeare quotes, whatever your child needs to memorize that's boring and difficult, get them visible up in the bedroom, around the house if you can stand it, for 6 months or more. They'll know it. Record and listen to the notes. The only thing you've got to get over is the sound of your own voice, which is quite unpleasant. But students can record themselves on their phone reading out loud the notes that they've made for a particular topic, and then just put their headphones in and listen to it in the train on the way to school, when you're driving up to Granny's house in Newcastle for Christmas. You've got to get over hearing your own voice, but boy, does that work. And you can see there I've got the quizzing. Getting tested is really good. One thing, if your child is the sort of child that gets hopelessly distracted by their phone, I mean, my son was like this. I even once caught him tidying his bedroom rather than revising. What you can do is set up another space in the house which is away from all distractions, which is their revision zone. And it might have to be in your room. It could, if you've got the space, it's great. And see if you can persuade them to give you their phone while they revise, especially if you're only asking them to do it for sort of 15 or 20 minutes at a time. That can really, really help. Don't forget that they will get tons and tons of preparation in school. We finish all of our syllabuses at the latest by Easter. Lots of revision lessons in school, lots of exam practice in school. So sometimes students say, oh, we're only doing revision lessons, I don't need to go in. Those lessons will be really, really valuable, top quality revision lessons. So please do make sure your child takes advantages of those. We have a lot of revision clinics in our school, most schools do. MFL is Modern Foreign Language Speaking and Listening lunchtime sessions here. There will be probably a whole suite of revision sessions for your child. Make sure you know when they are and encourage them to go. And hopefully your school will also do some relaxation techniques and teach them how to do revision timetables. All of these things are there to help your child. So at this point in the year, it can feel like quite a lonely place to be as a parent, but the whole school community is moving your child towards these exams, and they are behind you and working with you, and they will get swept up into that and into that atmosphere. So do take heart and encouragement from that. Okay, so thank you very much for watching this whistle-stop tour through how to revise. I hope it's given you some useful tips and hints. I would say one thing to remember is the two-stage process, and don't forget If your child has not been making the revision notes that you wish they had, buy some study guides. They're often really, really good at condensing the information, and go for it with the active memorization techniques. Thank you very much for watching. Bye-bye.